yes. I promised you last week that we'll bring you part 2. And that's exactly what we're going to do today. Last week we had Reverend Dr. Mrs. Susan Inti and Mrs. Audrey Doromu. We call her Mrs. D. Mrs. D, yes. What a program it was. The feedback was amazing. And today we are going to continue. Today we are going to find out how to win the communication battle. Sometimes communicating with the partners, communicating with your parents, communicating with your friends. I mean, people who matter to you can be so difficult. Sometimes you just don't know what to say at what time. Sometimes you just don't seem to get it right. Every time there's a problem when you try to communicate with that person. Well, today we are going to learn. We are going to find out how they've been able to do it all these years. Welcome to the standpoint. Let me say thank you to GTP for my cloth. This is the new Dumas, Adepa Dumas. Yes, it was launched last week, Friday on the 2nd of November, and it's on the market now. So go out there, go and get your own. Thank you to Ophelia Crossland for sewing it for me. My hair is by Inshilo, and makeup once again, of course, by Inshilo. Thank you to Sun Beats and all for my beads, my anklet, my bangle, and my earring. They are sorting me out so beautifully, and I just love them. Thank you to Power Cosmetics for giving us the makeup product. And we'll take a break. When we come back, we'll meet Mrs. D and Reverend Dr. Mrs. N. It's going to be exciting. We'll be back. Welcome back. If you just joined us today, we are continuing our discussion which we started last week. And today we are going to find out how can we win that communication battle. Some people, you just don't know how to communicate with them. I mean, you just don't know what to say. Nothing seems to work. You don't understand anything. Is it our fault, or is it their fault? Or it's our fault? Well, let me say thank you to Go-Got Yogurt. As a woman, yogurt is good for you. And if you want to go for yogurt, it's Go-Got Yogurt. Made right here in Ghana by Penta Foods. Thank you to Ophelia Crossland Designs. Of course, they made this dress for me, so I'm so grateful to them. Yet Cleaning Services always make sure our environment is clean, which is very, very important. We don't want any rodents in the studio. And we say thank you to House of Foods and Cake Technique. Now I have with me in the studio our two favorite women so far. Yeah, yay. Okay, so seated right next to me is Mrs. Audrey Doromu. She's the head of school, Association International School. Welcome back.
Thank you. Good to be back.
Next to her, I have Reverend Dr. Susan Inti. She is a minister of God and head of secondary at Association International School. Good to have you back, Doc.
Thank you. Very happy to be here.
So, Mrs. D, how do we even start the conversation?
Well, communication is, we have to look at communication in two ways. It's you giving information and you receiving it. So it's a two-way process. And when you're dealing with a spouse or a man, men are wired differently than women. Men are more analytical, women are very emotional. So when we're communicating with men, we want to, be loved and be hugged and be understood. And it's more of us telling a story, whereas the man's means of communication is basically getting it done. So when we communicate with each other, we have to first understand what sort of communication, what do we want to say?
Right.
How do we want to say it? And we have to have a chance to sit down with men and to explain to them, you know, and a lot of times we talk at each other. We don't listen to each other. And that happened a lot with my husband.
We talk at each other. We don't listen to.
Exactly. So it happened a lot, you know, when I was growing up in my early years of the marriage. And I wanted to be heard and he wanted to be heard. But it was difficult because we were talking at each other. But then we learned to listen to each other gradually. My husband used to be the moody one. He used to be the one who was quiet and didn't want to communicate at all. And when he was under pressure, he would basically, you know, go into his cave. I, on the other hand, I was the one who was always going and trying to talk to him. And it was hard. It was hard in the beginning because we had to get to know each other, and I had to get to know what sort of person he was.
Right.
And with time, you learn, and then, you know, you're able to explain and have a conversation. Look, nobody would, my husband was tough when I first got married to him. I used to sometimes get so frustrated, I would jump on him in the bedroom and just, you know, just shake him and try to get him to, and he's quiet, and when he recedes into his cave, he just is stoic. Nothing will shake him. So, but today when you see him, he talks a lot, and sometimes he talks too much.
Mr. D, don't mind Mrs. D.
But I love it because he's able to express, we're able to communicate, and it took time. It took time getting to know him getting to know me, getting to know what my needs were, me getting to know what his needs were, and then, you know, it sort of grew. So it will happen. For those who think, you know, no, men, it takes time.
Doc.
They say men are from Mars and women are from Venus. That's a best-selling book by John Gray. And it just explains and helps people understand gender differences in terms of women being more emotional, like what Audrey was saying, people being more emotional, ladies being more emotional and men being more analytical. And, you know, you have to understand that we are different, and difference is not wrong. It's just different. And once you begin to understand, you know, that we have to, you know, understanding means that you stand under where someone is coming from. So this is the way we women are, and men are completely different. And you need to be able to understand them just as they have to understand us. And so to understand gender difference, you know, it takes, you know, the wisdom and the grace of God, really. Because, you know, especially if you are an extrovert and you are outgoing, you know, and my husband is not, you know, he has his moments, but I get excited and, you know, like a firework, a hurricane, and, you know, and he's just so calm. I'm like, you know, what's going on here? But we are different, and learning to communicate, because communication, you know, one old mentor in England, we went for counseling. We went to talk, because, you know, sometimes you find it difficult to talk. Have you noticed that when you have communication problems, you start shouting at each other?
Yes.
And the person is standing just probably, maybe even in your face.
They're still shouting.
And you're shouting. And you know why we shout? We shout because we do not believe that they can hear us. So instead of calming down and just talking, you end up shouting as if your shouting will make them hear you
any better.
But I mean, you see how very funny it looks.
Right.
So you're there shouting at each other in the face. It's like, listen to me, because a lot of the time, as Mrs. D was saying, we don't talk to each other.
We talk at each other.
Yeah, we talk at each other, and we don't really listen. You know, active listening.
But sometimes it's so hard. Some of the men, you just can't communicate with them.
You know what? It's not about not communicating with them. We need to sometimes give them their space. You have to understand, we are emotional beings. So when we want to talk now. We want everything now, and solve it now. Yeah. But men, they're analytical. They need to look at the situation. Yes, they need to think about it, because they are solution, oriented. They want to solve a problem. So when you take a problem to them,
you might want to talk about it,
exactly.
And they are thinking about the solution.
Yes.
You just want somebody to listen.
Exactly. You understand?
But they want to fix it.
But meanwhile, you're not asking to be fixed.
Exactly. We want to be heard. We don't want it to be fixed. But we've got to be able to understand that they are the fixers, or they want to fix the problem. They want to make things better for us.
So what do we do? Let me take a break. When we come back, we'll find out. What do we have to do? Welcome back to The Standpoint. Again, I say thank you to GTP for my cloth. This is their new cloth they launched last week, Friday, exactly a week ago today. That's on the 2nd of November. It's called Adepa Dumas. And if you have any elderly woman around you, ask about Dumas. Those days, if your mother or your grandmother has Dumas, you don't go near that Dumas. And this is a new, it comes in 6 yards and bright color, beautiful, soft and, very quality. So this Christmas, don't miss at all. If you buy something, give it to me for a price. I will accept it now. Thank you very much, for that. And my dress was made for me by Ophelia Crossland Designs. Thank you to them. Thank you to Paba Cosmetics, who give us their makeup product. And my makeup today was done by Inshilo. And my panelist makeup was made by, done by Makeup and More, so a bit of everything. Yeah. We give platform to everybody, promote all the women, that needs the support that we can offer. Thank you to Sunbeats and all. Sunbeats and all. And they do it all. My anklets, my bracelets, and then my earrings, I buy them. And I'm so grateful to them. Reverend Doctor, what do we do? How do we win this communication battle?
Okay. So, I just love learning. And there's certain things that I've learned along the way, which I think most people need to know about. So there are different theories that you learn either when you're doing education or you're doing business. So it's good to study because it broadens your mind and you learn skills and tools that you can use in communication. One of, and there's so many. Like there's 4 types of people: the pragmatist, the reflector, the thinker, and the activist. And depending on where you are on the spectrum, that can also determine how communicative you are. So go and have a look at that because it also opens your mind. Then there are tools like the passive person, people who don't engage, and you find that a lot of women tend to be passive. They don't express themselves. So the alternative to being passive, they withdraw. Their feelings have been hurt. They withdraw. They don't want to engage. They clam up. Then you
because when you talk, he doesn't understand. He doesn't listen. So the best you can do is to keep to yourself and just keep quiet.
But eventually you explode. I used to be like that. eventually I would just keep it all in, and you just keep it all in. And then one day, what happens when you have an explosion? Everything goes everywhere, and that's what you don't want to happen. And communication is to life like blood is to the body. The blood takes the toxins out of the body and it brings in fresh, cells, and it renews the oxygen. And so if you don't communicate, it's like it's a stagnant something that is going on, and there's no outlet. To express yourself, it's about expression. It's about learning to exhale. You watch the film, Waiting to Exhale. Because sometimes we just keep it all in and we don't get the opportunity to exhale, especially when you're a passive person. You haven't learned how to express yourself and to exhale. Then you have the aggressive. There are some people who are just aggressive. They shout, they
throw things,
they bully, they talk down to aggressive. Then you have the passive aggressive. So on the surface, they are very cool, calm, collected, but underneath, they are dangerous.
Deadly.
They undermine, they just...
Yep.
They can kill you, looking straight into your face.
And then you have the assertive. This is somebody who has learned to assert themselves. Like, we all have a right to be here on planet Earth. Nobody has more of a right to be here than you do. There's no door that says reserved in life, but we need to go for it. So we have to learn to value ourselves, because if you don't
there's no door that says reserved in life. So we all have a right to knock on door to enter that.
Exactly.
Exactly. And you just look around you and see people who've been successful, people who have changed lives, people who have transformed nations. Some of them were just like you, me, someone sitting in the audience.
Right.
So there's a lot of tools. Then there's also conflict management theory. So for example...
So, but before you did the management theory, the assertive, you didn't go really into it. So she is the one who will just say it.
Yeah,
and demand her rights.
But I'll let Mrs. D talk about an assertive woman, because
she's assertive.
And I'm learning a lot from her.
Well, when you're assertive, you have to make sure that you know what you want. So when you know what you want, you put in the tools and you put in the whatever you need to put in to get what you want. And you have to make sure that you know who you're dealing with also, to be able to get what you want. I'm the sort of person that, if you don't do it for me, I will do it myself. And if I want something, I don't give up. I keep at it till I get it. And if this doesn't work, then I'll look at another way to make sure that, it works. And when you're dealing with husbands and you're dealing with human beings, you've got to know the people you're dealing with. And knowing who you're dealing with, you're able to then find a means and a way to deal with that person and get what you want from that person.
Sometimes you just don't know who you're dealing with. Because the same thing that you're talking about, that he or she seems to be, the next, and especially when I talk about respect, your tone, the way you said it, your posture, at the time you said it, and you never seem to get it right, but you want to be heard. You just want to get it out.
Sometimes you've just got to be, you have to do it and throw caution to the wind.
You know,
and when they think your tone, whatever, you just tell them blah 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 blah. This is who I am, and I can't change that. You've got to deal with it.
Isn't that one of the things men, some men don't want to change, but they want you to accept them for who they are, but they don't want to accept you for who you are. Dr. N.T. made a comment that sometimes you just bottle up, you don't keep quiet. I mean, you keep quiet over things. And it's also part of the way we are socialized as women. Mm-hmm. You know, you just have to be submissive. You know, you don't have to talk back at your husband. And, you know, the wise woman just keeps quiet and just watches and just prays and all that. And then you keep it inside and you are hurting and you are dying, and then you are there. Is this a good thing?
You know, with communication, there's one scripture, and I'll just paraphrase it. Mm-hmm. It says, in quietness and confidence, Isaiah chapter 23. Mm-hmm. Verse 26, verse 3. It says, in quietness and confidence is your strength. Mm-hmm. You know, so sometimes being quiet doesn't mean you're a doormat or there's something wrong with you intellectually or mentally. It just means that, as Mrs. D was saying, we are just observing. Mm-hmm. Because, you know, you need to know who you're dealing with. We are coming into relationships with a lot of barriers to communication, cultural barriers, traditional barriers, you know, stereotypes in our heads. This is how my mother behaved. This is how my father behaved. So therefore I adopt, you know, the family traditions that are not necessarily helpful in your relationship building and your communication and problem solving. You know, our mothers would say, oh dear, you know, don't talk about it. When they come. Yes, you know, but if you had a Western influence or you had a different approach in your home, you would be there standing at the door saying, excuse me, what time do you think this is? Oh, I'm going out. Excuse me, where are you going? You know, it's like out. Oh, you're going out. Okay, I'll see you later because I'm going out too. You understand? But we are so afraid. There is so much fear.
Who are you to question me? I'm the man.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm the head.
But that is abuse. That is verbal and mental and emotional abuse. We are not advocating for rebellion.
No.
Yes, we're not.
That's not what it's about.
We want women to see that they are also
they are
valued. They are equally important, and we want you to be empowered.
Yeah. Because if I get you, what you are saying is that do speak up, but know when and how.
Exactly.
Don't bottle it up.
No.
Know the person you are dealing with.
Exactly.
And know how to go about it.
Exactly.
But by all means, don't die in silence.
No way.
Well, remember this program is also aired on ABN TV on Sky Channel 195 and Virgin TV Channel 842 in UK. ABN TV is on Sky, and Sky is across Western Europe, parts of Canada and Asia. Our website, www.thestandpoint.com.gh, is powered by Dream Oval. We'll be back. Welcome back, my young ladies in the audience. Are you glad you came?
Yeah.
Okay, Adishe Incorporated. Let me acknowledge them. Adishe Incorporated. Thank you so much for coming. And tell me, what Adishe? What is it about? Adishe Incorporated.
An event management company and advertising company. So we manage any event: your birthday, your wedding, your funeral, every event.
And you are students?
Yes.
At GIJ?
Yes, please.
You have started early. I just love you. That's awesome. That's awesome. Yes. Okay.
So if you have any event, if you have something you want us to hype to, and you come to us, we'd make the noise on social media very well to make it popular for you.
You've created a job. So right from school, you have a business. Yes. Good for you. Well done. And let me also acknowledge the presence here of a member of Ghanaian Women Empowerment Network. Your name, please.
I am Nana Mafempo Ufen.
Thank you so much for coming. Okay. Mrs. D, before we lose track, you're going to say something.
I want to tell you all women that, you know, do not be afraid. God has not given us a spirit of fear, but a spirit of sound mind and boldness. That's what the Word of God says. When I think a lot of the issue women have is because they are afraid that they're going to lose the man.
Yeah. Fear.
I mean, don't allow fear to govern or to control you, because if you do, if he wants to go, he's going to go anywhere. Anyway, you're not going to be able to hold onto him.
Thank you.
So you've just got to allow yourself to break free of that fear and be yourself. You know,
Mrs. D, that's what we're told all the time, that if you don't handle him well and he's not happy and he feels disrespected, he will go to another woman who is ready to accept him and pamper him and sugar him, and you know.
That's where communication comes in.
Exactly.
If you communicate well with your spouse or in your relationship, they won't have anywhere to go. Because you have learned to communicate.
Doesn't he? A man who wants to go will go.
Yeah, I mean, yes.
Doesn't need an excuse to go.
Yes.
But if you communicate well, you know, and, you know, there are so many people who have problems in their marriage. You need to create a safe environment for communication with whoever you are in a relationship with. You can go to your friend and you can talk about anything. Why is it that when you come into your relationship, you are having barriers and problems? You know, we need to create an environment that is safe so that when Johnny says, oh, I'm going to have a drink with Charlie, you don't say, hey, again! Because then the next time, because of your reaction,
you're going to lie.
It's going to
it's like, oh, I'm going to cut my hair. Yeah, and then they start telling porkies. Before you know it, the pork has become a pig.
Exactly.
I like that. The pork has become a pig. Mrs. D, you wanted to add something?
I just want to let people know that, you know, women who are afraid of losing their men tend to hold on to them so hard. When you go here, they want to know where you're going and all that kind of thing. Men don't like that. Just like you also sometimes want your space. And so, you know, don't allow fear to dictate what you do, because if you do, you will destroy whatever you've built.
You know, Mrs. G and Dr. Nti, I think we need to have a seminar. The Standpoint in collaboration with, you know, going a seminar on communication. And because I still have so many questions, and I'm sure my young ladies have. You have questions, right? Yes. Don't worry. I think in the coming year, 2019, I think we should collaborate and have you know, a seminar, because this is something that we don't talk about, and it's creating conflict in homes.
Yes, big ones.
Big ones.
Serious conflict because of misunderstanding and not communicating right.
But you know, conflict is good.
Some conflict is good.
Let me tell you. Conflict, you know, there are 5 types of conflict, and most of the time you can fit a conflict into the different types. There's a data conflict. So for example, you come home and he's brought money and you've used it, but you haven't made an account. So there's a data conflict because he's expecting you to say, okay, so I had 10 and I used 5 and this and that, but you know, everything is cloudy and you haven't sorted it out. And you will find when it comes to data conflicts, like you go out, you come back, you don't say where you went, etc. You know, obviously there's going to be a communication issue and there's going to be conflict. And to solve a data conflict, you just give them the data. Then there's an interest conflict. You have your interest. Mrs. D has an interest. I have my interest, right? And when you're in a relationship, everybody has their own interests. So when you're dealing with interest conflict, you need to find out what is your interest so that we can try and make sure that in the whole solution, everybody's interest is satisfied, not just mine at the expense of yours, because that will be a conflict. Then you have relationship conflict, which is what we talked about, emotional, you know, negative emotions. Negative emotions are always a result of blocked goals. This is my goal. You are blocking me from doing what I want to do. Conflict in relationship. Then we have a structural conflict. A structural conflict is a conflict that is external to you. You can do nothing about it. It's in the economy or it's in the family. You can't change your family members.
Like in-law issues?
Yes. That's a structural conflict. It's not about your husband. It's not about your wife. It's not about your fiancé. It's about the family. And with those structural conflicts, because it's neither you or me, we have to then communicate and find out, so how are we best going to deal with this thorn in the flesh? And then there's one final conflict, a values conflict. Values.
Okay.
I believe that a man, for example, can sleep around, have as many girlfriends as he wants, and you don't believe it, and you want to date me. Now we have a values conflict.
Okay.
You want me to date you, but we have totally different values, and some people end up marrying people with different values. And that is what you've brought into the marriage, and I'm not going to change you, and you are not going to change me, because those are our values, those are our beliefs. So values conflicts are the most difficult conflicts you can change.
In fact, I know my time's up, but let me give you, just 1 minute each. Concluding remarks. Your advice to Ghanaian women, African women, women worldwide, watching you when it comes to communicating, especially in relationship. What is that one tip you give them? Dr. T.
I would say watch out for the toxic thoughts, because we think a lot of toxic thoughts. In other words, our human nature, we like to blame people for things rather than accepting the responsibility ourselves. So it's always them and what they have done, and never about us and how we could have done it better and how we can learn to improve in terms of communication, etc. So I would say watch out for those toxic thoughts where we like to point fingers. And rather than point fingers, let's see how we can make ourselves better at communicating with others.
Awesome. Mrs. J.
Well, I would say that you've got to be able to speak from the heart, and you've got to be able to speak your mind. But there's a way to do it. And there are different ways that you can do it. We can either write, we can either say it, and you should know when and where and how to say it. And it's always important to exhale and not keep things bottled up inside, because when you do that, you end up hurting yourself and you end up hurting the person who you're trying to win over to your side. So for me, there is always power and strength in quietness and in being open and truthful about who you are and what you want. And you need to open your mouth, or you need to find a way to express who you are from the very being or from the inside out?
Mrs. G and Dr. T, I have a little parcel for you from Walmart Africa. You know, just something I took him to say thank you.
Oh, thank you so much.
For enlightening us.
Oh, so much. Thank you.
This is not to say that you like cooking.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
But anytime you see it, just know that the standpoint is grateful. I'll be back with a bit of me. You know, about 5 years ago, the African Women in Leadership Organization gave me an award in Nigeria for giving a voice to the voiceless and for creating a platform where taboo topics can be openly discussed. That's what the standpoint is about. Giving a voice to the voiceless. Not me, but the people, the resource persons, the individuals, the groups who come and share their story, their experiences, so that you and I can be empowered, can be enlightened, can be educated. That is what it's about. But you and I both have a voice. God gave us a voice. We need to speak up. We need to know the space we find ourselves in and speak up. We should not die in silence. We should not die in silence. In fact, there's no conflict that has been resolved with guns. They can fight for how many years? At the end of the day, they will come and talk, communicate, dialogue to find a solution. Speak up, woman. What is eating you up? What is killing you silently? You have the power, you have the tools, you have the wisdom. Just know the time, the when, the where, the how, the what, the who, and get it out with. Have you been in a situation when you've said something and then, though you may not have the answer, you feel so relieved because you've been able to voice it out? Use your voice, not to fight, but to liberate yourself, to liberate your family, to liberate your marriage, to liberate your environment. No one deserves to die in silence when we have a voice. I'm a member of the board for Ghana Federation of the Disabled or People with Disability. And I can say that even those who cannot speak have a way of communicating. There's a sign language. So please, let's find how best we can do it. And do it. Speak up, woman. You can win this battle. This communication battle, you can win it. Nothing is impossible. You know, I'm the woman with super crazy faith in God. But I know He has given us wisdom. Let's apply it. Thanks for watching. See you same time next week. Bye for now.
I learned that we don't have to always put things in us. We don't have to keep things in us. We have to speak up, and we should know when and how to talk.
We have to get it right. And how are we going to get it right? By communicating right. You know, in our workplaces, in our relationships, in our families.
I learned that I must place value on myself.
I've learned that as a woman, you should speak up. You should emancipate yourself from mental abuse and emotional abuse.
And I learned that in order to create a safe environment for effective communication, you have to know who you are and then know the person you are dealing with or the people you are dealing with for effective communication.